Marketing is a mix of structured thinking and creative thinking. That is where the magic is. What is important is that you keep learning. You are not delivering a product, you are delivering an emotion. I'm a very strong proponent of AI. I think we are underplaying the game still. A great agency will work as a partner with you. They will start with challenging the brief itself at times, having their own point of view, and then not just thinking of the task that has been given, but the business outcome that this task is going to bring in.
Hey there, welcome to Marketing Mavericks with Indiefolio. Today we have Avi Kumar with us, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at FNP. Avi's entire career has been exceptional. He started doing sales before moving into marketing roles, and then he was CMO at multiple companies, both large enterprises and startups. We extract a lot of insights for marketers today. We talk a lot about insight versus information and many interesting topics. Thanks a lot for your time and welcome to the podcast, Avi.
Hi, thank you so much.
This has been a long time in the making, and I'm super excited to talk to you because, you know, FNP, IGP, whatever it is, has saved me so many times because I often forget to get gifts for my parents' anniversaries or my friends' birthdays. And be it half an hour, be it an hour, sometimes just in 6 hours, I've gotten the whole place done up, gotten, gifts, etc. from everybody. So, super excited to talk to you because I think both the brands and generally your career graph has been in companies which super resonate with me as a customer. But before we kind of dive into that, I want to take you back to DIT when you were doing engineering, right? You are yet again one more CMO who's an engineer turned marketer and who's featured on the podcast. And I want to understand, in that time of your life, what is it that inspired you to hop into marketing as a career choice?
So, when I was doing my engineering, at that time I was a combination of somebody who was very curious and also confused. So while I was doing my electronics and communication engineering, you would find me in a lot of tech and college fairs. You would find me in random projects which did not have a very clear outcome, or you would find me in canteen with a group of people discussing ideas. So I was kind of the let's try and see what happens kind of a guy. And honestly, that's the energy which kind of kept me going and helped me in moving from one place to the other through the career. So marketing happened because marketing is a mix of structured thinking and creative thinking. So if you can mix up the two, which is, and engineering teaches you a lot of structured thinking. It teaches you a lot of discipline. Also, at the same time, it teaches you hustle and jugaad. But if you've got a creative side to you and you like analytics, then marketing is the place to be.
I think, it's so important for you to kind of get your hands dirty in college, whatever you're studying, into extracurriculars, because this has been a common pattern I've observed that you do things aside your schedule, you'll probably get inspired on something which, as you said, you're curious about. Um, I've seen that usually action leads to an insight. You don't have an insight which leads to an action. And I think in earlier times it was so hard for you to know कि यार क्या अच्छा लगता है, let me try something. But unfortunately today, when you see content, you just feel like, oh, I did it. Like if I see a 5-minute video on marketing or 10-minute video on coding, you just feel biologically that, oh, I've tried it and maybe I don't like it. And I feel so many young people today just don't try. They just want the answer in 100% in toto before they even take an action. So I think I will totally validate that. You did talk about how marketing is a hybrid of analytical thinking and creative thinking, but I wanted to ask you, traditionally marketing for young people at least is a creative thing because they think it's advertising. कि ads banate hain marketers. Can you kind of break up that for us, where what is the creative side of marketing and what is the analytical side of marketing?
Sure. So we spoke about insight, and you spoke about action. So the inception of any idea usually comes from the insight,
Mm.
and the insight would usually come from data.
Mm.
So the data is accumulation of a lot of information that you may have, and that then converted into insights. Once you've got insights, you know the consumer better.
Mm.
Marketing is all about knowing your consumer, knowing who is going to buy, why are they going to buy, what are the trigger points, what are the barriers, what motivates them, all of that and more. So how do you know that? You get to know that by a lot of data that you see, and this data can be through some of the available data points that are there, or it could also be the data that you collect by interacting with people, by being in the ecosystem and so on and so forth. But that is required for you to get a sharp insight.
Mm.
Once you have the sharp insight, that insight may not be very exciting and colorful for the consumer to get excited about it.
Correct.
But how do you then bring that insight into the life of the brand and into the life of the consumer is where the creativity comes in.
Fantastic.
And when you are able to marry both of them, you have a strong product, you have a strong brand, and you have a happy consumer.
You mentioned data as such an integral part to form an insight. I think here is again an area people get confused about कि insight exactly क्या होता है कि I've made a pivot table and I have now aggregated data. Can you tell me what's, let's say, the difference between information versus insight?
Okay. So, so you've got, say, let me take you back to when I was at Z5.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of content on the platform, and we had lots of consumers coming in on a daily basis on the platform, and there was lots of data that was available. Now, how do you convert that data first of all into information itself? So you have different data points, you collect that, and you have information. Now the information that you have is that there are people who uh, watch content on Fridays,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or there are people who are coming every Saturday to watch content.
Mm-hmm.
This is the data point that you have. This is the information that you have. But there is no insight to this. What do you do with this? You go a little bit more deeper and you understand why people come in on a Friday or on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you dig deeper into it, you look at what is the kind of content that is being consumed on a Friday and a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that there are big cohorts of customers that are existing which are looking for, say, blockbuster releases.
Mm.
So a lot of releases happen on Fridays and Saturdays, and they are looking for those releases. Is the reason
Wow.
they are coming on those Fridays and Saturdays. So that's an insight. So what you can do about is that you can plan your calendar in terms of your releases and make your releases also happen on a Friday or a Saturday.
Right.
Or you can amp up your campaign during a Friday and a Saturday, showing the top releases that have happened. So so how do you convert an information or a data point into an insight? That is where the magic is.
Correct. I think I often feel these unsaid human behaviors turn out to be really good insights. It's like something which is already happening, but the moment you call it out, you're like, oh yeah, that's true actually. And I've always felt the best insights give that feeling. And I love it when, marketer has an insight led brief, like it's the best place to start your creative work on. So really
Yeah.
resonate with that. Now I want to talk about first jobs, right? There's obviously so many pathways a young marketer can take today. You can directly join like a big brand or a conglomerate, as we call it, which will give you decades worth long of products to kind of go through. Today, you have the option to work with a young startup. You have the option to work with a large enterprise on the brand side, and you also have the option of the service side. One thing also which common comes up is if you want to be a true marketer, your first job should be doing sales and sweating under the sun. And that is where you'll exactly understand कि आपका customer क्या बोल रहा है. And I think you chose that path. So could you kind of make a case on why should one marketer start with a sales job? What's the advantage?
So yeah, this is a very conventional way of looking at it, and a lot of the organizations, they put you into the sales rigor first before they put you into any other function also, not just marketing. And it just helps you to go on ground. When you are in sales, you are in the harsh world, facing the real world and looking at the end goal, which is revenue, or to make that sale happen. And to make that sale happen, you need a lot of understanding in terms of the whys of the consumer, the what's of the consumer, and being able to translate them into a sale, which is where the 360 learning happens. So it's important for the person to spend time on sales in the beginning, uh, because when you're on the sales ground, you are able to interact with a lot of customers, consumers. You are able to also understand what are the real challenges that a person faces while doing the sale on ground, and then translate them into those data points or insights that can be then used across, because then you are able to solve whichever function. And this is not just marketing. You are able to understand the finance better, you're able to do operations better,
Right.
because you've gone on the field and you've understood the real market.
Yeah.
And its dynamics.
People say that focus on one thing, right? Often. And that sometimes naturally confuses people, because some of them, let's say, pick a category, let's say BFSI, or in your case, media, or CPG. And the assumption young marketers make is, if I stick to this, my chances of becoming a CMO in this category are higher, compared to being hired randomly as a CMO in a category I've never touched. And of course, like, you've proven it wrong by, I think, entering the category at the leadership level without having prior experience in that. So how does that happen, and why would a company hire somebody as the top job without really having that category experience?
So there are two aspects to this. One is functional expertise. So the functional expertise is built over a period of time, and that got built across every brand that I worked with. So whether that was Oriflame, or it was Big FM, or it was Z5, or it was IGP, everywhere marketing was one common thread that was there across each of these brands. So the functional expertise kept on building, accumulating, and there was uh, uh, that growth happened there. The other aspect of it was the option of working with different categories and brands, which helped me to enrich my own experience and understanding of the consumer itself. So for example, radio gave me the opportunity to learn regional, local nuances much more and much better. I understood what is the reason for brands to go local. What is the idea of going local, where while you have a core positioning of the brand at a top level, which was, say, Suno Sunao Live Banao for a Big FM, but how do you translate it at a Ahmedabad level, at a Bombay level, at a Kolkata level? All of that is super important. In Kolkata, we used to speak about the fish prices in the morning. In Ahmedabad, we used to advertise about stock prices. In Delhi, we were talking about the traffic. So all advertising was different, but it was about Suno Sunao Live Banao, which was the promise of enriching the life of the consumer. So somebody who's a listener, their life is being enriched, but in what way is being done in a local way.
Got it.
So say radio taught that. OTT taught me scale. It taught me, a lot more about content, how, different models work in terms of revenue, subscriptions, and so on and so forth. Gifting is all about emotions. It's a lot of logistics also, because it's a very tough category to be in. We are in a lot of perishables, and time is important, and so on and so forth. The importance of occasion is a lot. So that was there. Koto was a complete startup, and it was about that 0 to 1
Correct.
hustle in terms of creating from idea to pitch to getting that first round of funding to building the product and pivoting from one place to the other to find out the sweet spot or the right spot.
Right.
And then now I feel that FNP kind of is a mix of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tech, it's emotion, it's brand, it's scale, and so on and so forth. So whatever you've learned in your career or in your life in general, it doesn't go waste.
Mm-hmm.
What is important is that you keep learning.
Right.
And the functional expertise, though, it helps.
Mm.
In fact, if you change from one category to the others, I have seen that there can be a lot of lateral thinking that you can bring in
True.
to the same category, because there is, otherwise you become a victim of your own, patterns.
Right. I think you become jaded, and the more variety you have, I think sharper your first principles become. I always feel. I know exactly, what's not going to change, and I know exactly as well the customer is going to remain the same. So your understanding goes deeper. I want to now, talk a little bit about the gifting space. I think you love it. You keep on coming back to it, and now you are in FNP, which is the largest in India. Now, let's say I'm a marketer in this space, or I'm an entrepreneur building in this space. I'd love for you to kind of unpack that a little bit for us. So generally, firstly, what excites you about this space, because you're back at it again, and generally, can you kind of tell us a little bit about the market? Is it like, who is buying and what are they gifting at the end of the day?
So gifting is one of the most beautiful categories, I feel, because it a it is all about delivering emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You are not in delivering a product, but you are delivering an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And that emotion also is not being delivered to the person who's actually doing the buying,
Mm-hmm.
but that emotion is being delivered on behalf of the person who's buying
Mm-hmm.
to the person who's receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
And while all of this looks simple, from the top, but from the inside, it's incredibly deep and incredibly, there are multiple moving parts to this to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what excites me the most.
Mm.
It's a very dynamic category. India is a country on, which is full of emotions, which is full of occasions, which is full of celebrations. And thus, there is a lot that happens through the year.
Mm.
So, there is never a dull moment.
Mm.
There is Christmas that is coming up, and right after Christmas there'll be New Year's, and then there'll be Valentine's, and then there'll be Women's Day, and then there is Mother's Day, Rakhis, Diwali. So we've adopted the international occasions and festivals also as our own, and we have the plethora of Indian festivals as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So as a community, as a country, we love to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
And what better place to be in the heart of celebrations?
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell me, what are the most common things Indians gift other people?
So see, the topmost is flowers. Flowers and cakes are like no-brainers. People like to receive flowers, and it's the most safest way to send out your wishes, and it brings in a smile to your face. Cakes are almost a mandate to any celebration, and now there's so much of variety of cakes that are available that for any occasion or celebration today we are getting multiple cakes. There is a millet cake, and there is a chocolate cake, and there's a bento cake, and all of those are there.
Right.
So flowers and cakes remain the most popular ones in terms of gifting. Then there is personalized gifts that are taking a lot of center stage. There is a whenever you gift, you want to put the thoughtfulness in that gift,
Mm-hmm.
and the thoughtfulness comes in more if the gift is personalized to the person who's receiving it.
Mm.
Now that personalization can be as basic as understand as putting the name of the person or the initials of the person, but that personalization can also go into what do you like, what is it that you as a person love to do in your pastime. So if as a cohort you are a fitness freak, or you are a gaming person, or you are a travel person, then there are products that are curated for you. That's first. You buy the product which is personalized for you, and then you also personalize the experience to how or what you would like.
Mm.
And that is what then makes it even more special. So that's another third big category that is there in terms of gifting.
Right.
Hampers are very popular. So consumers or customers, they want to mix up things when they are giving up a gift.
Mhm.
So you want to mix up a little bit of gourmet, you want to put up some candles or perfumes. Fragrances are becoming very popular, and you maybe want to put, if you've got a good budget, you also want to add in some gadget into it,
Mm.
or chocolates into it. So that's also a very big trend, that when you gift, you want to gift a hamper which is a combo of a couple of different products.
Um,
Books are popular, gadgets are popular, alcohol is popular.
right.
So there is a lot
Makes sense.
that goes on in gifting.
And
From occasion to occasion, also your choices change.
yes, I think every occasion has a certain template gift these days, or rather, since years rather, not these days. But
Yeah.
tell me, how is marketing, let's say, gifting to a consumer different than B2B? Because I know that B2B corporate gifting and stuff is also pretty big.
So So usually in a B2C gifting, it is usually gifting for, where I'm doing the convincing to buy it for a certain occasion for one person that you're going to give for someone else. Uh, so will they like this? The questions that the person is usually they have in the mind is, what will be the right gift for this occasion? Will they like this? Will it arrive on time? How will this reflect uh, on me and and the person who's going to receive the gift, etc. And some of these things are very important.
Right.
From a B2B point of view, when the decision making is happening, it's also a lot to do with what is the value
Yeah.
uh, at which we are going to work.
Mm.
What is the trust and credibility of the brand that we are going to work with?
Mhm.
How are the operations, uh, going to be there? There are a lot of brands that are bigger brands, and they want pan India or throughout the world kind of deliveries. So those aspects also become important.
Mm.
So it's not just for one person that you are deciding, but you are deciding more uh, for choices that can be more accepted on a larger group or a larger idea.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think you convince a committee, which is coming more from an ROI standpoint, while the other is more impulsive, saying, if I think it's cool, I'll buy it. So I think,
Yeah, while ROI, both of them are looking for ROI, but what ROI is, the definition or the matrices of the ROI are different for both.
fair point. That's a better way to put it. I
Here the B2C consumer, you're right, is not looking as much for discounts. They are looking for more of making sure that whatever you're buying is creating the right impression. While on the other side, B2B, the value or the price at which it is being bought is also as important.
absolutely. Now we want to jump to the last part of the podcast, um, and I want to touch upon AI. Of course, now we all know that AI is here to stay. Um, if I'm a young marketer, what's annoying is, like, every 3 months the opinion on AI is changing. It's moving. Various things are happening, and I've gone from asking, is AI a good or a bad thing, to now being like, okay, AI is here. So now the question I usually ask is, because you've been in the industry, I'm sure you're also kind of playing around with all these tools. What do you think generally is something very overrated about AI, and what is something very underrated about AI? If you can kind of highlight both those aspects for us.
So that's a very interesting question. What is overrated about AI? So I'm a little bit of a very strong proponent of AI, and thus I do not feel that there is much that is exaggerated or is overrated about it. I think we are underplaying the game still. We There is a lot more that can happen, within our teams, within our ways of working, and there is a lot that is also happening on a day to day basis with AI.
Mhm.
What I think is currently underrated is the use of agentic in our day to days and into our strategic as well.
Mhm.
While a lot of the brands have started to work from a gen AI point of view in terms of creative output with respect to copy or with respect to basic designs, or the creative thinking and so on and so forth, but from a point of view of actually creating those agentic routines, which will not just uh, do some of this creative work which is there, but will also be able to do a lot more of all the other aspects of marketing, which is optimization on the campaigns, looking at the ROI of each of these campaigns, not just optimization and ROI, but also just deploying of these campaigns from the beginning to the end, customer interaction, consumer engagement on a much more regular basis than what you could do otherwise. Creating a repository of all the insights on and engagements that you're getting from the cloud that is there on social media, and then converting them into those insights into campaigns, into execution, and so on. CLM, the customer lifecycle management, discount,
Right.
whatever you think in marketing could be made much more efficient and optimized using agentic. And I feel it's not even limited to actually marketing. We are talking about marketing here, but it's transformational for the entire organization.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think people just once again form an opinion on AI without giving it the time it deserves. You try a prompt, you try a tool, don't get what you like, you kind of ignore it. And I think that's where I think people kind of miss out on a lot, which is try and go a little bit deeper, try and understand why it did what it did, and kind of ask yourself more questions. You'll soon be able to kind of get more confidence, as you said, that it's so underrated. Still, I also feel super underrated, and it's going to do wonders in the upcoming few months.
It's already doing it. Our life a year back, and the rate at which our life is changing and the ways of working are changing, it's evolving at the fastest speed, at least that I have seen in the last 1.5 years. From the first image that you could generate through a chat GPT or a Gemini, to the kind of deployment that you could see now, from the first level of machine learning that you saw, to actually AI understanding your entire way of working and creating your brand campaigns based on those understandings. It's evolving at a very fast speed.
100%. I think often joke about this with my team internally, that clients always wanted yesterday, cheap and good, and I think we are reaching there, and we're going to start delivering those solutions to brands now better than ever. So yeah, that's 100% true.
It's just that sometimes um, the brands make that mistake of stop being human.
Mm.
The beauty of deploying AI should be that you are not replacing the emotion.
Hmm.
You're just helping through AI to deliver it better at scale and in a smarter and faster way.
Hmm.
So, if you look at yourself also as a consumer, the moment you see this is very AI, this is synthetic, this is not human, you will kind of not want to interact and engage with it as much. When you are even in a chatbot, or you're interacting with a chatbot, and your interaction doesn't seem human, while some of the vocabulary that they use and the ways the statements that they'll make will be written to make it seem like human. But after a couple of interactions, if it feels like this is a bot which is not understanding me and my emotion right now, or my frustration or my love right now, then it kind of starts to fall between the cracks. So it's super important that while you deploy AI is artificial,
Yeah.
but you don't lose the human intelligence or the human aspect of it.
100%. 100%. Um, we also represent at Indiefolio a large network of independent talent, and I often ask a question, on their behalf. A lot of them have ambitions and aspirations to work with large brands like you. So, um, if you could kind of share with them, what you think is the difference between a great agency and a good agency, that'll be awesome.
I think you will know that better because you're running one and you're running a good agency, great agency, I would say, which is solving for a lot of the partners' problems, challenges, or the opportunities that they seek. Um, I think a good agency delivers what you ask for, and you have to really follow up to get what you want.
Yeah.
While a great agency will work as a partner with you, they will start with, challenging the brief itself at times, having their own, bringing in a point of view for you,
Mhm.
and then not just thinking of the task that has been given, but the business outcome that this creative or that this task is going to bring in.
Mhm. Mhm.
So if it works, if it feels like that I am with a co-pilot,
Mhm.
if the agency feels like a co-pilot where both of us are, flying the ship or sailing the ship, then it's a great agency.
Got it.
If it is just about getting the task done,
Mm.
then it's a good agency.
I understand. I think a good way to put it is proactive versus reactive, and I think the proactive folks always get a lot more trust from their brands.
Yep.
We are at the end of the podcast, and I'd like to get a parting thought from you. I'm probably the most common listeners are young folk who are in their early stages of their career or probably just graduating college. If I want to be a CMO one day like you, and I'm young today, what are the things I need to do in the earlier phases of my career to increase my chances of becoming a leader one day?
There's no single playbook to this. Every person, every has their unique, beautiful journey, and I can just speak from my experience in terms of what worked for me. Um, First is make decisions faster. A lot of times we procrastinate, or we overthink uh, on whether this is good, this is bad, this is work, this is for me, not for me. In my view, make an informed decision. Decide, act, observe, try fast, fail fast, learn fast.
Mm-hmm.
That's super important. And it's becoming even more important today. It was important for, I think it has always been important, but today agility is a super big, superpower.
Right.
uh, the second is that stay curious. It's important that while you have a bias for action, which is the first, which is, you make the decision fast and you act on that decision, which is the bias for action, you also need to stay curious, which means that you have to keep learning, unlearning, learning, unlearning.
Mm-hmm.
If you think I've learned this and this is what I am and this is the end of it, it's not. There is no end.
Mm-hmm.
It is, in fact, the more deeper you go into it, the more you realize that this is just the beginning.
Right.
Right? So it's very important to keep learning and unlearning and being curious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, there is no single learning is across everywhere, right? If you are curious, you will learn from the panwala who's there to the person who's your guard, to the person who's working with you at a much junior level, to your seniors, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The other thing that uh, I think is always helpful, or if you can find one, if you can find yourself a great mentor or a coach for yourself uh, early on,
Mm-hmm.
it helps like a catalyst. And I found that both from a point of view of my professional journey, as well as from my personal life. Professionally, I found a mentor in one of my bosses, at Reliance, and I think it transformed the way I think, or the way I used to act, and so on and so forth. I kind of leaped forward much faster.
Mhm.
And similarly, on the spiritual side, so I used to do my meditation and all of that. But with the spiritual guru also, the entire process became much more faster. So if you're able to find the right mentor at an early age,
Mhm.
who's able to also kind of give you the right uh, a mentor is able to give a very third party kind of a
Mhm.
view to the
Right.
things, right? Sometimes you can be biased towards how you're thinking, what you're thinking, and so on and so forth, and so can be. But a mentor is usually unbiased and will give you a very very straight kind of a feedback,
Mhm.
and that's very helpful.
Fantastic. I think some really, really golden and profound advice from you. I think each and every point is something I like really resonate with. And this marks the end of the podcast. Avi, thank you so much for coming on. But I hope you had a good time.
I had a fantastic time. I think this was. I didn't realize that we are already on the last leg of this podcast. Enjoyed this conversation with you, Kavan, and really looking forward to making this as insightful for the people who are listening to this as well.
Thank you for your time. I'm sure people will learn a lot from this. And for everybody who's stuck along till the end, thank you so much for doing so. If you'd like to hear another marketing leader soon, please subscribe to our channels, and a new episode will come out very, very soon.